Today, as I'm going off-route, I thought I'd tell you the story of how I was waiting for 2 packages from Temu last week, and one of them disappeared. It was the first time something like this had ever happened to me. And honestly, I never thought it could even be possible, considering how every step of the delivery is tracked in detail. So, when I went to pick up the package from the courier's locker station during my morning walk, I was sure I wouldn't leave empty-handed. It's Sunday morning, quiet outside, not a soul around. I walk into the locker area, the same spot where just 2 days earlier I had picked up the first half of my Temu order. I type in the code, the locker door pops open, and I step closer. Half distracted, looking at my phone, doing it almost mechanically, since I have picked up plenty of packages this way before. I reach inside, expecting to grab a small parcel with one hand. But my hand touches nothing. I reach deeper, still nothing. That's when I finally lift my eyes from the phone and realize the locker is completely empty. I couldn't believe it. How does that even happen? And while I'm staring at the locker confused, the machine starts beeping like it's reminding me, hey, you left the door open. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. I pulled out my phone and took 3 photos of the open locker, just to have proof that yes, it was empty, because I already knew I would have to contact the courier company. I sat the locker, glanced around in case the package had somehow fallen nearby, and started heading out. But then I stopped. What if I had typed the wrong code? What if I was off by a single digit and somehow, like hitting the lottery, opened someone else's locker by accident? So I go back to the screen, type in the code again, this time watching carefully, making sure I do everything right. The same locker opens, of course, still empty, no magic this time either. I walk out of the building and start writing an email to the courier as I head home. There are 2 reasons why I still remember this story and decided to tell it now. First, it was the first time something like this had ever happened to me with a locker pickup. I honestly thought nothing could go wrong. That's actually why I prefer using lockers instead of home deliveries. And second, this story ended up being the one that got the biggest reaction on social media when I shared it. People were surprisingly interested, way more than with anything else I had posted around that time. What really caught my attention was how many others had similar experiences to share. That's when I realized 2 things. First, it's something almost everyone has gone through. We all order online now and know the process inside out. And second, I wasn't the only one. There's a whole bunch of us out there who have dealt with the same kind of mix-up, which probably means there are more people with insight or opinions on it than I thought. When I finally realized the locker was empty, I felt more confused than angry. And really, why get angry? Mistakes happen, right? It's not the end of the world. As long as there's a solution, it's not even really a problem. The only thing that bothered me was knowing I would probably waste time sorting it out instead of just picking up my package and moving on with my quiet, simple life. But yes, I was definitely puzzled. How could something like that even happen when everything's digital and trackable? I just assumed the system would know exactly where the mix-up occurred and how to fix it. So I started thinking through all the possible scenarios that could explain it. From the very beginning, I was convinced it was just a mistake. It honestly never crossed my mind that something shady might have happened. The lockers are out in the open on a fairly busy street. Sure, anyone can walk in, but I didn't think for a second that someone could have done something weird or sneaky. Although, to be fair, right after I took the photos, I did glance around to see if there were any security cameras installed, and I was surprised not to see a single one. The lockers are actually inside a small enclosed area, which is unusual because most lockers are outdoors on sidewalks or in parking lots. I figured maybe because of GDPR and all the strict European regulations, they can't install cameras. Still, since this one is basically a ground floor shop space, I thought there must be at least one camera somewhere. Then I remembered something from 2 days earlier when I had gone to the same place to pick up the first package from that same Temu order. Yeah, I had gone a little overboard with the shopping spree thinking, come on, it's Temu, how often do you buy from them? That first time there was an employee inside loading the lockers with parcels, and honestly, it was kind of chaotic. Packages were spread all over the floor, and people like me were stepping over them just to reach the screen and type in our codes. So, naturally, when I saw the empty locker, the first thought that came to mind was that maybe my parcel had ended up in that mess, either put in the wrong locker or shoved somewhere out of sight. In general, I still consider the locker system one of the safest and most convenient ways to pick up packages. Up until last week, I thought it worked perfectly. And honestly, it's made my life easier. Given how common these lockers have become, there are usually 2 different courier companies with lockers in almost every neighborhood, I can always find one nearby with space available. But mostly, it's the freedom I love. I don't have to sit by the window waiting anxiously for the courier to show up, worried I'll miss them if I step out for 10 minutes. Because if I do miss them, it usually means another whole day before I get my delivery. And then the same anxiety all over again the next day. So yeah, lockers have been a game changer for me. For a second, I thought maybe, yes, it was my fault. That's why I tried entering the code again. I knew the chances were slim, but since I was already there, why not eliminate that possibility too? It cost me nothing to double check. What really surprised me though was that the locker actually opened again. I didn't expect that. I mean, the system should know I had already entered the code, opened the locker, taken the package, and closed it. So, why would it let me open it again? Doesn't it register that the package has been picked up? And if so, why give me access a second time? Also, I never got any confirmation message saying your package has been received, which I found odd. That feels like a bit of a security gap to me, because ideally that shouldn't happen. Then again, I can see how the opposite could also be true. Maybe someone distracted, like me, could accidentally close the locker door before grabbing the package. Well, in that case, it's actually a good thing that you can reopen it. So yeah, now that I think about it, maybe the system's not so bad after all, especially for clumsy people like me. Someone less calm than me probably wouldn't have handled it the same way. I can't speak for everyone, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone got angry, maybe even slammed the locker or damaged something out of frustration. A lot of people would have probably called the company right there on the spot. Me? I just started writing my email on my way home. That's more my style. I'm not exactly the type to panic or react impulsively. I'm pretty organized actually. I calmly attached the photos I had taken, added a screenshot of my Viber messages with the order details, wrote a short note explaining what happened, and sent it off to the company's support team. At that point, I had done everything I could. The only thing left was to wait and be patient, which is definitely easier to do when the package isn't something valuable, like mine wasn't. If it had been something expensive, I'm sure I would have been a lot more stressed. But since I had proof I followed the instructions exactly, I wasn't worried. My only concern was how I would prove that I didn't actually take the package and then pretend it was missing. I mean, if you think from the company side, how do you prove that someone didn't first grab their parcel and then take pictures of an empty locker to claim it wasn't there? That was my only real anxiety. Not whether I would get the package, but how to show them I wasn't lying. So I went home and immediately told the family what happened. Luckily, the items our daughter was waiting for were in the first shipment I picked up 2 days earlier, so I wasn't expecting any complaints from her. The second shipment was mostly things my wife and I were waiting for, and she took it calmly too. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Well, I sent an email and I'm waiting," I said. "Oh, you already sent it?" Of course I had. When there's something to do, I do it right away. I'm not the "I should send an email" type who remembers 2 days later. In general, I don't like should. Should go there, should pick that up, should fix the other thing. If I want something done, I don't say I should do it, I say do it now. Also, in this situation, timing mattered. Imagine the courier company getting an email 2 days after the supposed pickup. Yeah, that would raise red flags. Sir, why are you writing 2 days later? What were you waiting for? On top of that, screenshots and photo metadata show the exact time things happened, which I assume they can cross-check with their event logs to see when I entered the code. Though I'm not 100% sure they actually do that. For me, the matter was already settled. I didn't have an itch in the back of my mind telling me, come on, it's just a package, don't overthink it, because I honestly wasn't thinking about it. There was a solution, I had already applied it, so it wasn't really a problem anymore. Of course, I wasn't going to leave it to chance either. What was I supposed to do? Not contact them and just wait for them to discover the mistake on their own? If the recipient doesn't care, why should the company? Unless their system catches it. To be fair, I assume they would have found the error anyway. How many times can this happen? The funny thing is, as I later learned, it's not as rare as I thought. When I posted about it, mostly on X and Threads, a lot of people jumped in to share similar experiences. The first comment I remember was someone saying my package had been snatched. I thought, unbelievable, can that really happen? I instantly pictured it. Tons of packages waiting in lockers out in the open. Some low volume, some high. No real security. Sitting there at night in dark places where nobody's around. Okay, I can see how that could become a problem. But can they really be breached that easily? Then again, anything made by humans can be undone by humans. It's like house doors. They tell you they're unbreakable, but lock yourself out and you'll see how unbreakable they are. Other comments blamed the courier and said they were reimbursed. That's good. At least I wouldn't lose my money if it never turned up. Some people even found 2 packages in the same locker. Obviously, the second wasn't theirs. They contacted the company so they could reroute it to the correct recipient. Presumably, they left the extra package in the locker. But there's a trust factor. Someone else could have just taken both and kept quiet. Without cameras, could the company prove that person picked up 2? I hope they have thought through all these scenarios and don't rely solely on people's goodwill. What surprised me most was the story of someone who found their package already opened inside the locker, with items missing. They were reimbursed, sure, but it's not exactly great for the company's image. The person also wrote that, based on what they learned, some delivery drivers themselves steal packages. Well, that possibility had never crossed my mind. I get that thieves do what thieves do, but an employee risking their job and more to open a random box when they don't even know if there's anything valuable inside? Personally, that risk feels absurd. Overall, I was struck by how many people had similar stories. One guy even linked me to a forum thread discussing these incidents, and it already has dozens of pages of posts. The pattern I noticed is that people's trust in courier companies has been shaken. Then again, when someone has a bad experience, they'll naturally speak up. Just like I'm telling this story now because something negative happened, something I didn't expect. Meanwhile, my post reached over 20,000 people and only about 20 commented. So odds are, most of the rest are satisfied with these services. As for those who did comment with negative experiences, I'd say they sounded more angry than indifferent, and I can't blame them. It's not pleasant to have your property violated, whatever it is. And I say this as someone whose home was burglarized 15 years ago. Yeah, fun times. These comments did make me see my own experience differently. For the first time, I considered the possibility that the package had actually been stolen, and that I would just get a refund. I hadn't believed theft was likely. That's why, after that thought, I added the items back into my Temu cart so I could reorder them if needed. On the other hand, it didn't make me want to stop using lockers either. Yes, apparently packages do go missing sometimes, something I didn't expect. But the convenience of this system is so big that it outweighs these isolated, hopefully, incidents. What are the chances it happens to me again? And even if it does, I am more confident now that I won't lose my money and that the company will take it seriously. Also, I realized a small incident like this really does connect strangers who have had the same experience. It turned out to be a genuinely relatable topic, and those are the things that make us feel more authentic, more like real humans behind a screen and a keyboard. Hopefully, in the future, we'll be sharing positive stories that connect us, not just negative ones. This whole locker episode reminded me how we sometimes lose trust, not just in systems, but in people too. I generally believe most people are well intentioned and trying to do their best. But this story was a reminder that not everyone out there is good. That said, I'm not going to become suspicious of everyone. Not everyone is out to take advantage of me. The majority are decent people. It's just that when negative things don't happen to you often, it's easy to forget and assume we live in an utopia. As for losing trust in electronic systems, machines and computers, that's harder for me. If anything, I assume those are what ultimately helped locate my package in the end. 2 days after I sent that email, I suddenly got a Viber notification saying my package had been placed in the same locker. The tracking number matched, so I knew it was the same shipment, just with a new code this time. The company had already replied to my email on Monday, saying they would update me after completing their interval review, as they called it. So Sunday I sent the email, Monday they replied, Tuesday I got the pickup notification. At that point, my trust in the company wasn't just restored. I would say it actually improved, thanks to how quickly they communicated and the genuine interest they showed. Of course, it also helped that they actually found the package. Effort matters, sure, but sometimes results matter just a little bit more. So on my next morning walk, I head back to the locker, confident this time I'll finally get my package. I reach the screen, enter the code, the door pops open, and now I'm fully focused, phone in my pocket. I look inside the locker, and there it was, my package. Honestly, imagine if it had been empty again, just to mess with me. Now that I think about it, that could have made the story even more entertaining. If I had to put it into one line, it'd be this. Even the smallest problems and inconveniences are what make life interesting. I wouldn't say something this small changed the way I trust people or processes. Even if I were waiting for something expensive and had to go through the same situation again, the stories others shared reassured me that there is always a way to resolve things, one way or another. Thankfully, the world still runs on people who genuinely want to help. Now, if someone's listening right now and they have lost a package like I did, I would tell them not to panic. It's going to be fine. And if by some small chance things don't go fine, don't forget to share your story anyway, because that's how we all learn. Even courier companies.